We're running late.
No, get the oxygen to the brain, whatever you need. Water, yawns. It's channeling.
Okay.
So good morning, third and last day of the summer retreat, Astrology 2019. And I wanted to start today with a very positive vibe. The planets are becoming easier, lighter. Moon is in Aquarius, time for friendships. Venus in Gemini, no Plutos, no Mars, stressing us, no Saturn. So yes, I hope everyone is feeling much more positive today. And I'm just going to make a short prayer for gratitude. Dear God, Mother, Father, Jesus, Buddha, Allah, and all the other exalted leaders of humanity, exalted beings, angels, guardian angels, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be alive at this time, at the cutting edge of astrology, at the cutting edge of development of our spiritual qualities. Thank you that you gathered all those amazing people from all four corners of the world. Thank you for creating those beautiful friendships. Thank you for creating this high vibration around us that is healing all of us. Thank you for the unforgettable moments we've been having for the last 2 days. Thank you for the copious healing, inspiration, and joy. Thank you for life. Thank you for love. Thank you, and please bless this day to be the most perfect, the most spotless day, full of love and joy and lots of wisdom. Amen. Amen. All right, so we have a lot to cover today, so I'm going to hurry up a bit. Other rules for transits. Transits from planets and signs ruled by the same planet, like Gemini to Virgo or Sagittarius to Pisces, because Gemini and Virgo are ruled by Mercury. Sagittarius and Pisces are ruled by Jupiter. And we're talking here, they're usually hard transits. You know, they're squares. Gemini to Virgo is square. Sagittarius to Pisces is a square. But actually they're easier, less difficult, since they work for the agenda of the same planet, is the same ruler. So yes, they'll be somehow at cross purposes, you know, like Gemini to Virgo, but they both are detail-oriented, information-oriented. So it's gonna, even in a personal chart, if you have a hard aspects between Gemini or Virgo, Sagittarius to Pisces, it's a bit easier. So yes, the outer circumstances, squares indicate the outer circumstances are a bit more complicated, there is more resistance, but at the same time, the final results can be much more productive, because they want to fulfill, Gemini and Virgo, the mission of Mercury, Sagittarius and Pisces for wisdom, for knowledge, the agenda of Jupiter. So, you know, you can, it's not as like we had recently Mars in Sagittarius, square Neptune in Pisces, or something like that. Was it? Yes. No, we have Jupiter square, currently Jupiter in Sagittarius, square Neptune in Pisces. Today, it's this week it's happening. It's been happening the whole year. So yes, it's a hard aspect. There's possibility for overindulging, lack of boundaries, but the ultimate goal of it is to bring wisdom intuitively to all of us, you know, because they're Jupiter-ruled signs, both of them. Even if we make a few mistakes on the road, a few confusions, it's ultimately going to lead to the Jupiterian, you know, agenda. So, another rule. Transits from planets in mutual receptions work to help each other even if the transit is hard, like square opposition. Because the planets like each other. Mutual reception is when a planet is in a sign, say we have a transiting planet, let me write it here. Say this is your natal chart, and say you have Venus here in Capricorn in the natal chart, and there is at the same time transit from Saturn, say this is transiting Saturn, that is in Libra. happens? Venus is in the sign of Saturn. Saturn is in the sign of Venus, Libra. You have to know your rulerships well. You have to remember them by heart. So yes, it's going to be a square aspect, which is 90 degrees, which creates tension. But again, the ultimate result can be much more constructive and satisfying. Because Venus is receiving. Venus is a guest of Saturn's sign. Saturn is a guest of Venus sign. So they would respect each other, you know. One won't go to trash the house of the other. And so they like each other, they have cross purposes, they don't want to do things exactly in the same way. Saturn, for example, in Libra would like, you know, to do them in a more liberal way. Venus in Capricorn in a more practical way. But because there's mutual reception, they're gonna come to a conclusion, they're gonna, you know, whatever tension is happening in your life currently during such a transit or such progression, it will work out towards, you know, like two people that are in each other's houses agreeing to keep the rules of that house, you know, so there'll be more respect between the planets. What other planets might be in mutual reception? Mars, for example, in Capricorn, so you have, we're also looking at mutual receptions through exaltation and sign. It's not only just rulership. If you remember, each planet is exalted in a certain sign. So if Mars is exalted in, for example, in Capricorn, and Saturn is transiting in Aries, well, Aries is a sign of Mars. So Saturn is in Aries house, you know, in the kingdom of Mars. Well, Mars is in the kingdom of Saturn, Capricorn. So they're going to respect each other more. It's a very tough transit. Saturn does not feel very comfortable in the kingdom of Aries because it's debilitated there, it feels uncomfortable. It's a fast-paced kingdom. Everyone's working out, fighting, you know, going, climbing, whatever. It's stressful. Saturn is slow and old. Well, Mars actually loves being in Capricorn, in the sign of Capricorn. So Mars will be, in this example, a bit stronger, of course, exalted in Capricorn. So he's going to do the most work. If you have like a difficult transit like that, then in mutual reception, it's a difficult aspect, it's going to be hard what you're having to do, it's going to end up more productively, especially through the efforts of Mars in the sign of Capricorn, whatever house it is for you, it's going to, those actions, that house that Mars is in, the house that it rules, are going to help move things forward. Alright, so when there is mutual reception, the planets again, even if they're enemies, even if, you know, the transit is hard, can help each other. Transits are often people. When you have a transit, you'll meet people who carry the symbology of the transiting planet.
Yeah, that's true.
So, for example, a Pluto transit, you can bring occultists, psychologists, people that are represented by Pluto, plumbers, stalkers, criminals, you know, it depends. Is your Pluto well aspected in your horoscope? Or is your Pluto difficultly aspected? So transiting Pluto, when it's making transits in your chart, might bring actually a bit of all these kind of people. You notice transiting Pluto 2 years. So you'll notice that, you start noticing, oh, I met people that are doing ayahuasca retreat, you know, this is Plutonian purging. Or I met people that sell, you know, that do criminal stuff. Or I met people that are into the occult, into psychology. Or, oh, I'm meeting so many Scorpios, you know. Or, for example, you're having Saturn transit and a Capricorn appears, you know, in your life. Or Capricorn becomes very prominent. Or someone who is who represents the Saturn qualities. You can notice, like, there will be older people around you. You'll notice that there will be people with more seniority or people that are Saturnian in nature. And they can have more stressful effect on you depending on the transit or more positive. So like that with everything. If you're having Uranus, you know, like my husband was having Uranus transit and an astrologer appeared. So just pay attention to the transits, what kind of people will be around you. Not necessarily the same sign that the planet rules, but they'll probably have that planet very strong in their horoscope. They'll be doing something connected to that planet as a career or as energy. eclipses are important. Eclipses are also like transits. They are transits. That's when the sun and moon and the south and north node align somehow. So eclipses within 3 to 4 degrees, usually 3 degrees is the max. I wouldn't give it more. Of a natal planet or angle, ascendant, descendant, IC, MC, in conjunction or opposition on. I don't use squares. They'll probably be felt, but conjunctions are the strongest of eclipses, the oppositions. Bring fated events. You probably all know that. When eclipses come, it's like people start, all of them start checking YouTube, watching videos to see what's happening, but not everyone is affected by an eclipse. And it has to be within 3 degrees of a natal planet, especially the sun, moon, ascendant, the angles. North node eclipses, it means that if the sun and moon are with north node or the lunar eclipse is with the north node, brings something new usually. Because Rahu, remember, is more progressive, is new, tends to bring something of more material, tangible nature. It again can create chaos, because Rahu is quite chaotic. But it generates more desires, you know. Wow! Something more material. South node eclipses. When there is an eclipse, say sun, moon, and south node that falls on ascendant or moon or something, can require letting go of something. Whether they are full or new moons, again, when south node is there, there's the need to release something, to leave something behind. South node is where we excrete things. Completion as well. South node is to complete something. Solar eclipses, which is a conjunction of moon and the sun, of course, are more prone to new beginnings. And if it's a solar eclipse, new beginnings with Rahu, they usually bring something very unusual and very different. When it's with Ketu, you first complete something and something, you have to sacrifice something for something new to come. While lunar eclipses are completion and seeing results, because the moon is full, but they're very fated, because it's an eclipse. They have a much bigger, important nature, you know. Seeing results, endings, culminating something, often also fated relationships, because it's the full moon eclipses, they're like an opposition. They have the nature of relationships. So for example, you can have an eclipse on the, often around the years that people get married, the years that people have children. You'll see activation, like really fated event. They meet someone really important. They get divorced. Someone dies in their life. I'm talking something we have no control over. I mean, we think that we choose our partners, but the people we're meant to be with, we have a contract with them from before, because Rahu and Ketu is the karmic planets, the karmic nodes as we know them. So you'll notice that there are strong eclipses happening on the years of big fated events. For example, there were 2 eclipses on my moon. There were new moon eclipses with Rahu. The 2 years I got pregnant. Moon is family, motherhood. And I was like, my mom's gonna die. Because the ancient astrology has really negative attitude of eclipses. But I've been watching it and it's not true. Sometimes it can happen, fated events, but a lot of times it can actually bring you the most fated events. The years that you meet someone that changes your life will also very likely have an eclipse happening on an important point. For example, the year that I married my ex-husband, there was south node eclipses on my sun, moon, and Mars, twice on that year. And it's not that it's going to happen on the eclipse exactly. Usually it's strong as a month before, a month after, but that year that you have, and there are usually 2 eclipses that happen. If they happen on one point, they would repeat in the opposite, conjunction and opposition usually, within a year. So that's, and because it was with South Node, I had to let go of something, you know. But then when I met my second husband, it was an eclipse on my Jupiter. Jupiter is the husband. So, yes?
Whenever one of these transits are happening on yourself or a client, then and you already know because you're an astrologer or you're seeking an astrologer, so can you go ahead and do what you know needs to be done before? And does that kind of set you up properly? Or any kind of like, proactive action maybe?
With eclipses, I don't think there's so much free will. Rahu and Ketu, it's funny enough, they're not, I don't know why. They usually surprise us, those events that happen with eclipses, they're out of the blue. You might have felt like it's time for something to shift, but the eclipses kind of bring it, and often with eclipses I think like it's more like allow it and adapt to it, you know, and accept it that this is what it has to be. You can see what area of life it might be, so you prepare mentally. Say there is an eclipse on your 7th house cusp, and you might be, if you're in a marriage, it might be an ending of a marriage or a big change there, or it might be a new person that's coming. Often when Rahu and Ketu are transiting the axis of the ascendant, descendant, the fated relationships that year, or the axis of the moon, the sign of the moon or the opposite in ancient astrology, this can also bring fated relationships and fated events in your personal life as well. Eclipses on the sun can bring big change, especially depends what the sun rules in your horoscope, but the sun is with your direction, with your career. Always though in eclipses, one thing, health. This is one thing you have, especially on the sun, on the moon, on the ascendant, and the ascendant ruler. This is almost like when there's big shifts in life, and sometimes eclipses bring crisis, you know. It's like the body is adjusting to the new conditions, and it's weakened. The oral protection is weakened, and actually psychics have seen that during eclipses, the aura of everyone becomes more penetrable, weaker. So around that time, it's as if and like God allows the forces of chaos, which is represented by Rahu and Ketu in ancient astrology, to come in to create change. And we usually around eclipses, if they hit something, we feel quite fearful and scared because something is shifting. We're not sure what it is. We can feel deep emotional feeling. A lot of people don't feel anything on eclipses if it doesn't touch an important point in their horoscope, you know. But people, yes?
What about a progressed descendant?
Progressed descendant? You can,
Or son?
yeah, you can see it. Maybe you still feel it to some extent. Yeah, but I've never looked at it's enough looking at the chart and I get overwhelmed. So,
and Lada, you promised to tell what is when the Rahu and Ketu transiting change positions according to the natal horoscope.
when they're opposite each other?
Yes, opposite each other. Rahu
Okay.
Ketu to Rahu.
Okay, so there is a reversal there a little bit because this happens every 9 years that the positions of your natal positions of Rahu and Ketu swap. So transiting Rahu will be on your natal Ketu, transiting Ketu will be on your natal Rahu. Then you act very different than you usually act. This year, you know, you'd basically, because Rahu and Ketu, actually Ketu position shows in our horoscope our security pattern. So the biggest percentage of how we act is based on Ketu, interestingly enough. And because this is something that we've done for years and for lifetimes and lifetimes that we felt secure with. So often you'll see that if someone has Ketu in an air sign, they can very easily communicate with others, or they can easily make rapport with others, but their mission is Rahu. In this lifetime they have to learn Rahu in a fire sign, they have to learn who they are. They have to become strong in themselves. They shouldn't always ask for opinions of others. They should be like, I'm making decisions for myself and take initiative. And when you see swapping by transit, they'll start feeling the other way around. They'll start, so for a little bit they'll start, so you kind of, I find it quite interesting because you see shifts a lot to the other way of behavior when Rahu and Ketu are changing. So then you'll notice that there is more focus on the Rahu house as desire and a bit letting go of the Ketu house. Again, fated events happen. Fated events for sure. And, but after that they continue moving, and the most fated events happen when there is a Ketu return, Rahu return in the same position. Because it repeats the things that you really are here to, but every 9 years, either one or the other happens, either the same or the opposite swap. So maybe there's something to do with this 9-year cycle of completion that we talk about. Some karmic events get completed. Usually something that started during the Ketu, Rahu gets completed or gets some culmination when Rahu goes to Ketu goes to Rahu.
This clicks. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Consider the transit of Saturn and Jupiter from the ascendant, Sun and Moon. Often there is a stellium in the horoscope, including either the Sun or the Moon. That sign can act as the start of the horoscope. We've chosen the start of the horoscope, the eastern horizon, as this is the point that the soul enters incarnation into the physical body. But you can choose any point of the horoscope as a start. The ancient people used even the part of fortune as a start of the horoscope. And especially if there is often the sun in the horoscope is with a few other planets, with Venus, with Mercury, they're always around it. So if you see, the sun or a few planets together, especially if they include the moon or the sun, often transits from them, whole sign we're looking, will also give results house-wise. So for example, if your ascendant is in Cancer, and you're thinking then, the second house is Leo, whatever, and the Capricorn is here, Jupiter, Sagittarius is the 6th house. So for example, we have currently Jupiter transiting Sagittarius. So it's transiting the 6th house from the ascendant of everyone that's Cancer. But imagine this Cancer person, Cancer rising person, is actually Gemini sun. And the sun there is with Venus, with Mercury, or even if it's just the sun. Then Jupiter will be transiting in the 7th sign from that, from your sun, from your stellium if you have. So you'll notice both influences. You'll notice Jupiter expanding or growing, whatever, the 6th house from the ascendant, and also the 7th house from your stellium or the sun or the moon as well. You can check it from the moon, and maybe your moon can be in Leo. So then Jupiter will be expanding the 5th from Leo, while Saturn will be in the 6th from the moon, so it's contracting, streamlining. The 6th house from moon, the 8th house from the sun, and the 7th from ascendant. Especially if you see someone with a stellium, like I have 4 planets in Aries, I feel the transits from the sun just as powerfully as from the ascendant. But I see a lot of people, they say like, oh, my sun sign horoscope was more correct, than the ascendant. Because both the ascendant, the sun, and the moon, they're points of consciousness that we identify with. So, and I know it gets too complicated, but just check the position of the transits of Jupiter and Saturn from that. They're enough to give you so much information about that by house position, And for example, you can see often people getting married when Jupiter transits the 7th, but you can see people get married when Jupiter transits the 8th or married or something important with relationship, the 8th from the sun, and the 8th from the moon, the 7th. Okay, 19. People with big stelliums will often have periods when nothing is happening, then intense, okay, we talked about that, then intense periods of activities, opportunities, challenges, depending on the planet activating the stellium. So it's obvious, when your planets are dispersed all over, they're never activated at the same time. So, and that's kind of, I think it's easier and, every person feels their life is difficult, but while you're having one difficult transit, you can be having another easy one on another planet. So you have more resources to tap in, And if one thing is not working, you can go out to another. But people with big stelliums, they have everything in one part of the horoscope, or just a few others, and when a transit happens there, or activation by perfection, hopefully we'll get to that, it's everything focuses in that area of life. They might feel like horse with blinkers, like, but they can, that focused energy can help achieve tremendous things in that short period of activation. Okay.
And is it true that it is said that if planets are dispersed over the zodiac, so this incarnation is sort of easier just to rest a little bit, and those who have big stelliums, so they decided, or I don't know, the soul has this purpose to do something in that, just something important, I don't know, or in the soul evolution, or I don't know, somewhere during
Yes,
this.
I understand, yeah. I can't say for sure if I was God, oh no. But I can say that for sure people that have things dispersed, you know, the planets like a splash, or how we call it, splash, yes. That first of all, they have more areas that in ancient Vedic astrology, the more planets you have single in sign, without conjunctions in others, and they work with the 7 visible planets on in Rahu and Ketu, but the more planets you have in signs without conjunctions there, they say the happier a person can be. Because it's like you have different resources again to tap in. When one thing is not working out, you go to another. They can often be called jack of all trades. They have a bit here, they're very multi-talented they can be. And actually people with the 7 planets in 7 different signs are considered to have great skill and talent. And the number 7 is also the number of mastery as well, so they can master something great. But they're considered to be happy, like Dalai Lama has 7 planets in 7 signs. People with conjunctions and stelliums, they have it emotionally harder. Because it's like putting 3 radios, say you have 3 planets in the same sign. It's 3 radio stations in the same room. And you're trying to attune to each other and please each. So it's hard, especially 4 or more planets in a sign. In ancient astrology is considered sannyasi combination, which means like to retreat from the world and to focus on spiritual development, because these planets really interfere with each other, and often things that they rule in the horoscope can be very complicated in life. So such people have so many complications to deal in life that it might be better for them, and things might often not work out in certain areas. So before in the past in particular, when they saw in Vedic ancient times that someone has 4, but they're talking about the visible planets, say Saturn, Venus, Mercury, and Mars, or more in the same sign, they'll be sent to an ashram. So they're not overwhelmed by the outside world, and they can focus on spiritual development. And it's often because life is more difficult, it's a push towards spiritual development. While the others that have their planets dispersed, they're naturally somehow more aligned to inner joy. Of course, there might be difficult aspects, they're exclusions, but it's a general rule that they talk about. And, and of course, stelliums are about someone who can be really focused in one field, and of course, lacking in others. These are one-sided people sometimes, you know, and it's nothing bad on that. They can be genius in that area. They can tap into that area, but the other distractions of the world can overwhelm them, and they can feel like, everything is about that, you know. And often astrologers advise to go in the opposite house of the stellium to take off energy, you know, so you have a stellium in the 3rd, business, work, daily, busy life, go to the 9th house, travel a bit, you know, connect to higher wisdom. Stellium in the 2nd house, so many things happening regarding material resources. Go to the 8th house, the occult, you know, psychology, self-exploration. So, yeah, it's harder when you have stelliums, but also you can have more impact in a certain area. You know, while when you're dispersed, you gracefully slide from, you know. All right. People with, transits of and to the ruler of the 1st house to be watched carefully as they show the actions. You should take the 1st house ruler. 1st house is you. 1st house ruler is action, you. So when there is always watch where the ruler of your ascendant is transiting. Look at the traditional, you can add the new ones, Jupiter, Pluto, Neptune as well. But for more specific, tangible result, look at the traditional, the visible planet. So if you're Capricorn, always watch where is Saturn going. If you're, and you see, for Capricorn rising people, life will change usually a bit slower because Saturn rules them and it takes 2.5 years to move from sign to sign. For Jupiter people and Pisces, always look where Jupiter is. Also look what transits Neptune is doing for Pisces, you know. Because it will be for 15 years in one sign. It doesn't mean you get stuck in that area of life at all. Just look at the transits Neptune is doing, but definitely pay attention to Jupiter if your ascendant is at Pisces, you know, or Sagittarius. And you see like people who are Gemini ascendant or Virgo, Mercury moves so quickly, 20 days over one sign. You see their life is usually more fast-paced. There are more often changes of, you know, circumstances. They move from one topic of interest to another, one area to another. And of course, Cancers, the moon changes sign every, Cancer rising every 2.5 days. So you can see their moods. They like, but it's rhythmical. With the moon, it's perfectly rhythmical. So it's every 2.5 days you'll see some shifts in them, you know. So always look where is that where is the ruler of the ascendant, what house it is transiting through, what area, what state it is in. For example, for Capricorns now, Saturn is transiting its own sign. It's tough on them. It's transiting their sun, moon, or ascendant. But Saturn is manifesting there. It's giving them strength to become who they are. For Sagittarius, Jupiter is transiting there now. So Jupiter is giving them the, you know, the opportunities to expand, to grow, to travel, wherever they are. So it's very powerful. And and also if you're Aquarius or Pisces or Scorpio, look when Pluto, Neptune or Uranus shift sign, you start noticing shift of priorities for the next 10 or 15 years in those outer signs. But always watch their visible planet transits as well. And look to transits to the rule of the first house. Say you're Leo, transits to the sun will be so important. It will be usually something you have to do. You have to initiate. A big change in your appearance, direction in life, how you feel about yourself. The transits of the ruler of the first house to other planets is usually you start some changes. Often, when you see the ruler of the first transiting over other planets, you do this change. Whether transits or progression, you know. Yes?
How critical are the transits from the ruler, from the transiting Pluto, let's say, to the natal Pluto? How critical are they? How do you see them? Because Pluto, it will take, or Neptune, maybe 12 years in the same transit in your natal Pluto, in opposition. How critical are they?
They usually actually, because they happen at around the same time for everyone in life, like Uranus opposition, Uranus opposition Uranus, happens at around 40 something, so they call it the midlife crisis. So they're more like collective. Pluto square happens from around late 30s to 40s, you know, Pluto square, Pluto. So it's like a lot of growth through that planet, but you feel it especially powerfully if Pluto rules your ascendant or sun or moon, or if it's a Uranus, if you're Aquarius and you know, then Uranus opposing itself. Everyone feels it on some level, and you have to see specifically where Pluto, Uranus, what house they're in to feel it. I often kind of skim over them because there's so many transits. I'll give you a list of the transits that I look at, but if Uranus, Pluto, Neptune rule your ascendant, sun or moon, then their transits to themselves, even though they're generational, everyone born in the same year, like you will feel it more specifically in regards to yourself, your direction in life, and whatever Pluto is transiting through. And
do you look at those? I mean, is that critical to look at those?
if Pluto, Neptune, and
Fast ones for Venus, for Mars?
no. Fast ones to Pluto, Neptune, Uranus.
Like transiting Venus to your natal Venus if you are a Libra.
Yes, I would look at the houses it's passing through. But mostly, because they move so fast, If Venus, the important moments for Libras and Tauruses will be when Venus goes retrograde, because it will be there for 3, 4, 5 months in the same sign. So Taurus and Libra rising people, they should pay attention to Venus shadow period before it becomes retrograde, when it's retrograde. Mercury and Gemini people, they should pay attention to Mercury retrograde periods. Cancer people rising, eclipses. Because new moons, full moons, they'll feel some important, if a full or new moon for Cancers activates something in their horoscope, they can feel it much more strength, with much more power. Mars, so Scorpio, Aries rising people, they would feel when Mars, very powerfully, when Mars goes retrograde somewhere, that area, that house in their horoscope for 7 months, basically for the whole year, will be pivotal, will be the focal point. So yes, for the faster moving planets, Venus, Mercury, for Leo people, solar eclipses again, new moons, full moons, because they again include the sun, are very pivotal. But for Jupiter, for Venus, Mercury, Mars, that they are retrograde periods, and the period before and after, from the shadow till the end, is something big will be happening. If it activates, whatever house it is, you'll feel it there. And if it activates planets from there, you'll be changing something big there.
And this first house is for 2 signs, and one of them ruler is Jupiter and another is Saturn, and both are now transiting. So what that is this a crisis or is this some special opportunities?
You mean like now we have Saturn transiting its own sign,
Yes.
and Jupiter?
Transiting its own sign.
Yes, that's actually good, because I think we'll get to that. When a planet that rules a sign is transiting through it, it gives manifestation of that sign. So if Saturn is in your 5th house, sorry, did you say?
So if it is in the 1st house.
Yes, if it's in the
they
5th.
are so contradictory.
Well, 5th house is students. You can get students, for example. You can also, yes, it's very contradictory, because Saturn in the 5th is never easy, but currently is passing through its own sign.
I'm saying first.
First?
First.
First. Okay.
Yes,
So Saturn through the 1st is definitely because it's the 1st house, is new beginning in your life, having to build new constructions, having to make new priorities in your life. Because the 1st house, and Saturn is about what is important, so you have to streamline, cut off things that are not necessary. Often cut off a lot of connections, just leave, and often it sheds off pounds, anything unnecessary. Saturn is the death with the scythe, so cuts those things off, but helps you build new foundations in life as well. It is very hard, but it will, if you're Capricorn rising, Saturn is transiting there, it will help you. We'll talk about that the planet transiting its own sign is actually, will fulfill that house. There are 3 levels of activation in Jaimini astrology, ancient. When the ruler of that sign is transiting it, and if Jupiter is transiting it, and Mercury, each one of those can activate this house, this sign to give positive manifestation of some sort, to manifest materially. So especially if you have the ruler, like next year, Jupiter and Saturn both will be in Capricorn for some time. So the sign will be really manifesting Capricorn, to a double level. And from time to time, Mercury will enter there as well. So there will be triple manifestation for many Capricorns there.
With New Year's, it's a 6-planet stellium with Capricorn.
Oh, wow. Exactly.
All of them, like a big party.
Exactly. And when you also see, this is important. Yes. So when you see a lot of planets transiting at the same time from a sign, whatever that house is, whatever that sign is in your horoscope, big emphasis, There'll be.
Jupiter in Capricorn debilitated with Saturn and Pluto.
It doesn't matter. The ancient astrologer says, yes, it will manifest according to Saturnian values. It's not going to be the knowledge, the expansion, the optimism, but it's going to manifest the structures, the material side of life to allow it there to grow or to fortify. It's contradictory to the nature of Jupiter being in Capricorn, because it's about spirituality, wisdom, growth, expansion. Capricorn is about, downsizing, so it will give us a lot of knowledge about what also to downsize, how to create a better systems, better structures in life, because Jupiter is wisdom. So it will give us a more practical wisdom of a sort, on a more material level, and it will manifest Capricorn. Even though it is debilitated there, it will still manifest it. In a weaker way, you know.
So it will expand depression and...
I don't think so, no. It's more like Jupiter in Capricorn is going to allow for that, because when Jupiter transits any sign, it tends to try and manifest its positive sides. Because according to ancient rules, a difficult planet, a difficult sign, can be counteracted by a positive one. Becomes nicer, easier, better, you know. So Jupiter will help manifest some of the nicer sides of Capricorn, you know. And there'll be big manifesting for anyone that has Capricorn while Jupiter and Saturn are in the same sign, even though they don't conjunct there. And especially when Mercury joins from time to time, you'll notice that you see material, tangible results in whatever Capricorn is in your horoscope. When there are a few transiting planets close to the degrees of a natal planet, within 4 or 5 degrees, there is strong activation. So, imagine you have Venus here in Capricorn, let's speak, like in 19 degrees. Currently Saturn is transiting there around 19, 18 degrees. So, but say your Venus is actually at 21 degrees. So it's a bit further, it's 3 degrees away from Saturn. But around that degree. So you're wondering, is Saturn going to activate it earlier, later, you know? And all of a sudden you see that at a certain day, and currently Neptune is in Pisces. Sorry, I'll need to do a new one. So Neptune is, you see that today there are quite a few planets on the same degree. Neptune at 18 degree Pisces. Saturn at 18 degree Pisces. Jupiter.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but it's kind of stuffy in here.
Vicky?
The air's not on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you so much. You read my mind.
Keep stopping. Ah! It started.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. So imagine if you have something in Virgo here, some planet that's within 3-4 degrees of that, and Jupiter is at 18 degrees currently in Sagittarius. So a lot of planets on this devil degree, as we call it. Let's hope nothing bad happens.
So why 18 is in the devil degree?
Also
The
the Virgo degree.
Virgo, good. Nicola Stojanovic has a theory that 18 is connected to very difficult illnesses and difficult things that happen. He's been observing it. But let's not pay attention to the 18 meaning. But you have a planet, say here, a natal planet. Let's say you have Mercury at Virgo at 21 degrees or at, at 17, whatever. And all those planets suddenly align to make aspects to Mercury. So you see Jupiter is squaring it, Saturn is trining it, and Neptune is opposing it. Whoa. So people that have planets around the 18th degree, maybe 2-3 before, 2-3 after, in quite a few signs currently, they'll feel like something very powerful. Something very important will happen in regards to that planet, in regards to the natal Mercury. Pay attention what house it is in, what house it rules. So, sometimes it might be, just Venus activating, for example, and Venus in Gemini might be activating. So the more planets you see within 3-4 degrees, together the same degrees in a certain year, in a certain month, and if you have planets at that degree, okay, there is resonance, vibration that it will align. It could something really manifesting, triggering it. When a stellium of transiting planets activate the natal house, pay attention. And now in September there will be 5 planets in Virgo, or 6 almost. You'll notice whatever Virgo is in your horoscope will be such a focus for you then. Check it also from the sun and the moon to see extra details, you know. But transiting planets, I'm saying. So very clear, distinctive emphasis, because it's just so focused in one point, you'll notice. I always try and look at, because a lot of times in the year, just planets are all over the place, but certain months, if they just all get together, or within 4 or 5 planets get in the same sign, and these are really more clearly defined periods to predict, especially the area they're going to manifest in, the house. And it's interesting then that you'll know certain very clear periods, you know, of specific focus. There is one rule, the Saturn-Jupiter mutual aspect in ancient astrology, in Vedic astrology, that works so well. Maybe you've heard of it. If you can use it definitely with tropical. I've seen it work amazing with tropical. When Saturn and Jupiter both aspect a sign, either they transit through it or they aspect it, they activate the manifestation of the sign. Jupiter gives the growth and new ideas and opportunities, because Jupiter is fructifying. It's very creative. It brings ideas, opportunities. Saturn crystallizes them, puts them into shape and form, structures them, makes us work hard for them, usually out of circumstances, presses, but we have also the inspiration of Jupiter. And repeat till we learn them. You know, Saturn helps us repeat, you know. But here the aspects are a bit different. They're the ancient Vedic aspects that we're going to use for that, because this method really works. I've tested it and I love seeing it. And you know, you might feel a bit overwhelmed now with so many rules, but if you check them in charts, if you start looking them one by one, you remember a few of them, then something will pop out of you. And one method can give you the answer. And sometimes you'll see it with 2-3 methods. So, but the Saturn's aspects to look at when Saturn aspecting is a conjunction, opposition, the backward square and its forward sextile. So, let's look at Saturn here. Sorry, it's with other planets. So, Saturn in Capricorn currently. So, it's forward square. Forward is in the direction that the signs move. So, it's forward sextile. It's 100% aspect for Saturn. It's, you know, you'll be surprised. It's a sextile, we say it's light. But Vedic astrology have seen that Saturn looking 60 degrees forward has a really powerful influence, almost to 100%. It sends its influence. So currently Saturn is a full aspect, full sign aspect we're talking. Any planets in Pisces are activated by Saturn currently. So currently Saturn is activating Pisces. The opposite sign is Cancer. Cancer as well. Capricorn, of course, it's in Capricorn. And the backward square is 100%. Saturn's backward square is considered to be stronger than the forward square. We use in Western astrology both the forward and the backward. You'll feel the forward square too. No getting away from it. But actually the backward square is more intense. It's if the forward square is about 60%, the backward square is 100%. So Libra. So Libras are getting it hardest from Saturn than Aries actually, currently. Actually Pisces is getting activated according to ancient rules by Saturn very strongly. But here we're looking for good things. We're manifesting when Saturn and Jupiter both aspect. So next year Saturn will move to Aquarius for some time. So from Aquarius, it will activate Aries, forward 60 degrees. It will activate Scorpio, backward 90 degrees. And it will activate, of course, Aquarius and Leo. And when we have also Jupiter activating the same sign, Jupiter's aspect in ancient astrology, the 100% ones, is the conjunction, of course, the sign it is in, the opposition always, it's full strength for every planet, and forward and backward trine. So the trines of Jupiter they have, the nature of Jupiter, they're 100%. They can act as strongly as an opposition, as conjunction. So currently Jupiter is in Sagittarius. So it activates Sagittarius, it activates Aries, let's do it in a different color. It activates Sagittarius, it activates Aries, the forward trine, it activates Leo, the backward trine, and it activates Gemini. We don't have interception of those two. But next year, Jupiter and Saturn will be both together in Capricorn for a little bit. So when Jupiter moves here, both Jupiter and Saturn will activate Capricorn. So we'll have the inspiration and also Saturn, the crystallizing, the putting them in form and structure. So that's why Capricorn, well, they're both together for a certain time in Capricorn next year, will be manifesting. Will be whatever house Capricorn falls in your horoscope or whatever planet there is in Capricorn, it will manifest. And at the same time, they'll aspect fully Cancer next year, while Saturn is still in Capricorn. So Cancer as well, whatever house you have in Cancer, you'll see results there. Ideas and results. They're not gonna, okay. And after that, Jupiter will enter Aquarius. Again, they'll be together in Aquarius. 2020 with Saturn for some time. So 2021, from 2021, both Saturn and Jupiter activate Aquarius. They will activate Leo as well, the opposite sign. They're not activating other signs together. Or another example, I'll show you here. If you can remember that, it's so quickly to look at and see something. Example of Saturn and Jupiter, double whammy, birth of a child. For both horoscopes, mother and father. The 5th house is the physical body of a child. 8th house, like Nicole says, is conception, pregnancies. But to manifest a child, you have to have the 5th house activated. And as we said, material manifestation, when both Saturn and Jupiter activate that sign by aspect. So this is the year that Jupiter was in Libra and Saturn was in Sagittarius. So Jupiter affects Libra, Gemini by the trine, Aquarius, and Aries. Let's see if Saturn will fall in one of the signs that Jupiter activates as well. Saturn was in Sagittarius. It activates Gemini, so double one. Jupiter activates it, Saturn activates it with no opposition. And in this chart, in my horoscope, is the 5th house, a child manifest. For years before that, there was no activation of this 5th. You see there are no planets transiting there in the 5th that year. Maybe from time to time Venus or the Moon or whatever. But because both for the whole year were activating this 5th house with their special aspects, their special manifesting aspects, this manifested. Plus Saturn forward aspect, 1, 2, 3, activates Aquarius that year. And Jupiter with the trine activated Aquarius. So in this chart, this person, my husband, has his 5th house in Aquarius. So Jupiter trine activated it, and Saturn's forward, here's Saturn here, forward looking 60 degrees aspect activated the 5th house as well. So these years are very interesting. When both Saturn and Jupiter aspect, you quickly learn the aspects that they both have that do this. Sometimes I'll just look for such years. Look ahead a few years and just tell them these houses are when they manifest and what you're going to see. So it's a really fun. Yes.
Planetive aspects usually have the women like you who have children with small age difference, like 1.5 year, 2 years.
I mean,
Yeah, we see yours, but usually.
I've never looked at that because I've never been asked this question. But what I think is I have Gemini on the 5th house cusp, twins or two, but very. So they're Irish twins. It feels exactly like raising twins. It's close different. Yes?
So if it's in, so it activates a planet, but it doesn't have to be by the exact degree.
No, it
And
doesn't by whole sign, yeah.
with Saturn, because it's activating Pisces, does it mean that it's making it difficult because it's Saturn, or it's just materializing it?
It's okay, the forward-looking sextile,
Yeah.
it does not create so many obstacles.
Oh.
It's making it tough, but it's material. You have to work more on that area. So it's not giving its full like starving, depression, influence and stuff like that. The forward, it still has the energy of the sextile, but it's definitely, you'll notice when Saturn makes a sextile forward to some planet of yours, there's a lot more responsibilities there. That's how I've seen it usually. You kind of get yourself mobilized or circumstances push you to put more effort there. Of course, the most powerful will be the sign Saturn is transiting by, this is where the full burden is. Yes?
I've done some experiment in regards to the question. So, when you've got more planets in the 5th house, actually the bigger the degree difference, usually the gap is bigger, in my experience. If you only have got one planet or no planet there, check the ruler. If that has got a sign-based conjunction, tight one, usually the gap is too short between the two kids. If it's a wider one, then wider. If there is no conjunction, have a look at the ruler of that planet's ruler by degree, and that would really tell you the pH difference.
Okay, so,
and it works really well in my opinion.
alright, let's try this. So, Mercury is the ruler. It's here, but it doesn't have a tight conjunction.
It's in Aries, so it
But
might
it's
be fast.
Sorry?
It's in Aries, so it might be fast.
It's fast, and the first baby was Aries. So, but Mercury has no close conjunction, but the ruler of Mercury said after that you look at it. It's Mars, and the conjunction is very close to the Sun. It's about less than 2 degrees.
Yeah,
So it's
I'm
one.
not saying the difference is going to be 2 degrees, but it shows, 2 years,
Yeah.
but it shows that the babies can be quite.
Very, yeah, because it's close.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Wait, repeat it one more time.
So to see if you can have children fast one after another, if you have, for example, 2 planets here and they're very close in conjunction, it can mean them coming very fast after another, in the 5th sign from ascendant. If there is no planet here, look at the ruler. If it has a very tight conjunction with another planet, it can indicate very fast one after another.
Also, you can take this further as well. So, when you've got, in my opinion, a house is usually about 7 years. So, a house has got 3 decans. The first 10 degree, then the second 10 degree, and so forth. So, if the planet falls in the first 10 degree, 2 of them, definitely the babies come quite quick. So, let's say if it's a water decan, water is quite fertile, so the first decan is going to be ruled by that water sign. So let's say if it's Pisces, it's going to be ruled by Jupiter. Then you go around, and then after Pisces, the next water sign is going to be Cancer, so it's going to be ruled by Moon. Moon is quite a fast planet, so if you've got something there, that can again bring children quite quick, if it makes sense. Does it make sense? So you've got a house, let's say you've got the 5th house. In Lada's case, well, I'm using horse sign, so it's Gemini. The first 10 degree is going to be a decan. Then you're going to have 10 degree from 10 to 20, and then from 20 to 30.
Yes.
Okay, so if you've got, let's say, conjunction going on between in the first decan, in the
first
first 10 degree, that would show you that the babies come quite quick at an early age. So if you break down the decans, that Gemini is going to be ruled by Mercury, because that's the first air ruler. And the next one is going to be Libra.
Venus.
So the second decan is ruled by Venus, because that's the next air sign. So the third one is going to be ruled by Saturn.
Saturn.
So if you've got planet, for instance, in a Saturn decan, it might make you barren or less fertile.
Slow, or later.
Or later in life, or maybe just one child.
So the ruler also plays like that. The ruler of this is in the first decan, which is Mars decan.
So that's a
so
Mars
it's fast.
one. So that's a fast, hot planet. It makes Lauda very fertile, actually.
But that Mercury opposition with Saturn really delayed the babies.
But even though her fifth house class, Mercury is not really a fertile planet. So probably some of the astrologers would say, you're not going to have a child, or maybe one if you are lucky.
But the moon has good aspects, so.
Yeah, obviously.
But you know what's funny? While I was living with this chart, it always stays, wherever you move, this is the primary. But when I moved to the States, and before that for years I tried for children. The moment I moved to the States, all those planets went into the 8th house from the ascendant. So, you know, fertilization or pregnancy. And it's almost like there I could conceive. And the funny thing is that our island has the shape of ovaries. So we call it Baby Island. There's so many babies. Everyone goes there, has 4 or 5 kids. And I'm like, we can't stay here too long.
It would interfere with the second half again, because you talked about the ruler of, I think, Aries, and why they came so quick, yes? Right?
There
was a second half. There was Mercury you pointed to, and then you started with, I think, Mars.
She's talking about the decan.
No, it was not the...
before that, okay. So there's no planets here. The ruler has no close conjunction. But he says if the ruler doesn't have any close conjunctions, check the ruler of the ruler. So that would be Mars. And the ruler of the ruler has close conjunctions. And another one there. So. There's a third one after it. I'll go and try and do quickly those because I want to cover more. What the outer planets want in transits. The invisible planets, we can't see them with naked eyes. Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, they're psychological in nature, they're invisible. They're mostly within, actually sometimes you can see Uranus with the naked eye, so its results are often way more tangible than Neptune and Pluto. You definitely feel them, but they're very psychological, and they bring the biggest internal changes. A person only changes on a very deep level, profoundly, forever, and for life after transit of the invisible planets to sensitive points in the natal chart. Like one of my teachers says, these are the most interesting times when we have planets from Uranus, Pluto, Neptune. During the rest of the time, there can be other things happening, you know, life doesn't stop. But the moments you really remember are always connected with the Pluto, Neptune, or Uranus transit in your life. Even if externally something not so big happened, inside your experience is like, I've totally changed. I see things from a different way. So they're consciousness raising, sometimes in a very brutal way. But those planets really show the psychological growth. So I always check their transits, because when a person comes to you, often they think they come for you to make predictions for them. And of course you do. But what they really want to understand is what's happening emotionally, and how are they growing, and why are they feeling this way? Are they going, it's like if someone has Neptune transit, they're like, I'm not myself. Like, I've lost motivation, I'm confused, I've never been duped before, now I keep making strange and impractical choices. Sometimes Neptune transit, if you have a few planets, can be 10 years, you know, if you have a few planets in Pisces now, or in Gemini, or in Sagittarius, people don't feel themselves. And what they need is the validation to understand. And often Neptune periods are about loss. And what's helped, for example, I've worked with mothers whose children have died. The worst thing can happen. People that for consistent time are having certain challenges of very similar nature, either Uranian, Plutonic. I start doing predictions. They're like, tell me more about, you know, and I start talking just about the Uranus, Pluto, Neptune nature. And they want to hear that because they're like, someone's validating how they're feeling. So for me, these are the most fascinating transits. Even though often in predictive nature, it's so hard to predict with Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune. You can still see what planet is being transited, what house, but what really resonates is what's happening internally. So when people, for example, if someone wants to stop, you can end the relationships, for example, on a Saturn transit or whatever, but you might be longing for that person and for years after that, until Uranus comes and cuts off the cord and you're like, oh, I'm a new person, you know. But you carry that burden with you, you know. The actual event happened way before, but the inner transmutation, Neptune, Pluto, Uranus is what brings it.
Wait. Say that again. So if you have a Saturn transit and you get rid of someone in your life, like a divorce, like my daughter has Saturn in the first house and she got divorced. She changed her looks, she changed her house, she changed
wonderful.
her job, everything physically changed.
Yes.
So, but there is still a hurt inside, even though her life is great now. When she has a Uranus transit is when she's going to get rid of that pain?
Either Uranus, might be Neptune, Pluto as well, some activation of the outer planets. We have to see the whole horoscope. Because the outer thing that's happening is Saturn transiting the first house. She's changing everything. The internal shift will be indicated by Neptune, Pluto, Uranus transit. Because they create a huge emotional shifts inside. And concrete events can also happen during these transits, but they usually start as powerful impulses from within, you know. A transit of one of the outer to a natal planet will be most potent within 1 degree orb, but its influence can linger till the next major outer planet activation of your natal planet. There was a really interesting research, a woman, forgot her name, but if you ask me later, I'll tell you. It's called kind of like vibrational astrology. And she noticed that, she started researching that, and she's psychic as well, and she started feeling like traces of planetary influences in people's aura. So say you're having Neptune transiting your moon or square or whatever. So some lost love happens. Something, you know, it's like impossible, you know, you long for someone, whatever. Some love kind of too romantic but unrealistic, let's say. And then for 10 years, there is no outer planet transit to this moon. No Pluto, no Neptune, no Uranus anymore. And we're talking about the aspects with those planets will be just the conjunction, the square, the opposition, the trine, and the sextile. So we're using the normal transits, you know, the normal 5 traditional aspects. So then this longing might stay till the next time your moon is activated by an outer planet. So you will carry this Neptunian feeling we do till the next activation. The next activation might be a few months from now, but it might be, 7, 8 years from now. And then the shift happens, and then if a planet is in your 7th house, it can be relationship connected. If it's Venus again, or if it's planet connected to your career, it can be career energy that lingers with you. So Uranus transits to a career planet. Okay, you make changes, but it stays kind of crazy and ups and downs for a few years till the next outer planet changes it. And it's not intense as the conjunction, as the exact aspect, but it has such kind of ripple effect, a little bit of like a tuning fork, and you continue a little bit, you still are left with that taste. So sometimes, especially for emotionally how you feel about something, seeing the next activation by one of those transits, by the outer planets to the same planet, can show you when the shift emotionally about that area of your life will happen, whatever that planet rules. I hope you understood. Okay. And I saw this with many charts that I work. So the planets, what do they want when they transit? We'll go quickly through those because you know them, you can have them as well. You can, when you're going through transits, Pluto wants regeneration, depth and rebirth, destruction and creation. To eliminate is the column. Powerful Pluto transits correspond to the biggest shifts to eliminate something, to eliminate a desire, to eliminate something from your life. Usually when you eliminate something on a Pluto transit, it's not coming back. You're kind of, that's it. I've seen people that stop addictions, but you've heard of dry drums? They stop it on a Saturn. They have the perseverance, they have the discipline, and then for years they long for it. And then a really powerful Pluto transit comes or whatever, and it eliminates that desire. It really, something in the consciousness shifts. You know, Pluto transits are about really rewiring the brain and how you feel about something on a deep level. Purging. So when Pluto is around, purging can happen. Sometimes I've seen people literally throw up a lot more during Pluto transits, you know. Or they start doing enemas and, you know, all things connected to elimination. They start doing fasting, depth, emotional strength. The ultimate purpose of Pluto is when it attacks a planet, because often it feels like an assault when it's a hard aspect from Pluto. Psychological, emotional. Often you'll see powerful people around you, or psychologically invasive people that are trying to control you, that are trying. You'll feel, even if nothing directly is happening, you just feel somehow under attack psychologically, psychically. There's often such feeling, often they say people become paranoid during Pluto transits, you know. Sometimes it might be just in their brain, but, you know, it's like the husband who starts thinking his wife is cheating and chasing her. The person who gets obsessed that they have a black magic and they have to break it and start going to, you know, it can make us a little bit extreme. But I forgot what I was talking to. Yeah, emotional strength. But the ultimate goal of this Pluto transit is after you feel like psychologically, emotionally, psychically, somehow invaded or attacked, that you take your power back. Often when Pluto transits come, especially if they're repeating in your horoscope, some trauma happened in the past, similar circumstances will repeat, some crisis, to bring up those buried feelings, because when they happen when we're younger or not in a state of mind, certain state of mind, we can't deal with them, we compartmentalize them and lock them somewhere, you know. But they poison us. Pluto is poison. It's, they kind of gangrene. And it's like you constantly have a low-level fever, and you've learned to live with that, and you think it's okay, but you carry this pain. Pluto is the pain body locked inside. And then something happens that triggers us a little bit. You know, Pluto transit comes, triggers personal planet. So some trauma that you experience repeats in a similar situation. And no one, if someone else happens to them and they don't have Pluto transit, they won't react much to it. They'll be like, well, they'll brush it up. But it happens to you, and Pluto always brings things from, even from past lifetimes. It brings up the mostly deeply buried complexes that we have. Complexes, fears, crises from even many past lifetimes. And you wonder why you're reacting so intensely to some situation when Pluto transits. You know, outside, internally, not much might be happening. Not much people might not notice, but you feel like someone has stepped exactly on the most painful spot in you. The biggest fears that you have. And you might look irrational to others, but this is your thing that is being brought up from thousands, from many lifetimes, the complexes of psychological issues and traumas from many lifetimes, early childhood, if you don't believe in past lifetimes as well. So Pluto activates that so we can transform it, deal with it on a mature level, see it from another well, forgive, you know, psychotherapy, people go into psychotherapy a lot during that time, and they eliminate that. So it becomes like almost like you're having fever during that time, and you're feeling worse and worse. Panic attacks start happening, all kind of, you know, but it's this poison coming to the surface and then bursting in a, you know, gathering in a big wound, and you feel like very wounded suddenly. It's till now you had low-grade fever. You learn to live with that, with certain low-grade pain. But now, when Pluto activates, it becomes like this gangrene is gathering, and a big bubble bursts, and it's like a huge release, like volcano erupting, but then you're free, and you realize how burdened you are with heavy emotions and feelings for a long time. So the big psychological transformation happens. That's why Pluto is connected to psychologists, even to astrologers that are working with people to help them overcome some crisis, some pain, you know. So, sorry, someone was...
I was just gonna say with the Pluto, because it's been transiting my first house, my ascendant in my first house, and Saturn is there now, and Saturn intensified it, of course. But it seems like I was doing good because they've been making multiple passes of the ascendant, but now with this when it went retrograde, it's like all of that fear and anxiety is there, and it's like this huge fear of death.
Exactly.
And it's like
Exactly.
where is this coming from? And it's constant, and I mean,
Like something bad's gonna happen, like
Yes.
some tragedy.
yeah.
Everyone that's had powerful Pluto transits, they come to me and they say, yes?
I'm sorry. It's possible what just on spiritual level they say when ego dying, it's a fake illusion of the death.
exactly.
Don't be scared because that's transit related to Pluto. I know.
Tell us.
Pluto. I'm gonna wrote everything. Sorry for my English. The Pluto was transiting my 5th house, so I go through all little strange things. I'm gonna wrote the comments about interesting about evolutionary astrology, and the help was huge. This knowledge of my astrologer, I survived because it was
Passing your son.
yes my natal sun.
Yeah.
So that's only illusion. You feel that death. It's like a cocoon. So you just wait. You're gonna be butterfly. Just wait.
Thank you for the positive.
Marina went through it. What happened?
Just, I want to share this experience too, because at the moment when Pluto came on my ascendant, I had, according to the astrologers, the moment of my death. Yes, all planets were immobilized, and I had some disastrous events in my brain, just thrombosis. But at the same time, as I had already for 10 years spiritual practices, I just asked the heaven to let me do one practice, which is Merkaba. And when I finished it, I knew that I'm at the another side already.
Wow.
Just that I just
Left your body.
this vehicle, Merkaba practice.
Uh-huh.
So it brought me to the another side through that gap of death.
Okay.
Yes, I knew it immediately. And at that same moment, the knowledge came that I should quit meat. At that same moment. So I never had meat again after that moment. And which was very interesting, that all that year I was going with a very important social just project, huge project, social, and only at the end of the year I just decided to check what was bad with myself then. And then my friend, the neurologist, he told me that yes, this was a thrombosis in a very bad part of the brain. And I have that medical knowledge too. But it's nothing. There are 10 medication, now it is gone,
Wow.
So this was this huge transformation, and this social project, it changed my life, my professional group's life, and life of many women in Lithuania, because during that period we passed another legislation, we passed another practices, and so those, my first house is huge, it's Pluto is still in it. Yes, but all that period was it was difficult, but it was very productive, and just cutting, I have no time to just tell, but cutting all what is unnecessary, and especially when Saturn went same way.
So fully.
So fully all unproductive things were just went.
So there is a big purging happening with Saturn and Pluto currently.
And sometimes, yes, you have to trust God, I think so. And spiritual practice is a necessity for people, just to go there. Okay,
Wow, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. So you see such amazing, also a bit scary stuff, but a lot of people said like, Lada, I feel like something's bad, like a premonition. And they come and there's nothing bad happened, but I feel like something's dying, and it's true. As part of your ego is dying, that's why you feel there is death. And I've been killing my husband since Pluto started, thinking that I'm saying we're gonna die. It's like what I'm thinking about death all the time, like about dark things, and I just hope it stays that. Yes.
But I talk pretty loud. I kind of felt similar. So the moon rules my 12th house. And when Pluto was actually trining it, I started getting fear of being like incarcerated, and I'm not doing anything wrong, but it was just like being closed, closed thing. Oh, when Saturn got there, it was worse. So I had to meditate. If not, it just comes.
Claustrophobia.
Yes, and I was never like that. So you can see that
Guys,
too.
please, let's go take some group. Please write down everybody, because moon also transit Pluto. Can you write down certain things like surviving transit the Pluto? It can help so many people.
Yes.
Let's
That's
go
a good
do
idea.
it.
Yes, Pluto group.
Everybody literally experience, it can literally happen, physical death. We all
Yeah.
have the same transit experience.
Of someone in your life,
Yes.
a loved one, that's represented by that planet or
Yeah,
the
and
house.
and it literally actually is in the 3rd house, so it's 12 from 4.
Yeah. Wow. Brother, appearance.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it can really happen. So
Yes,
I don't want to-
there is actual death and there is literal death and there is metaphorical. And we don't know which one. So you have to see with other techniques. Yes?
Yeah, I had my moon in 3rd house, so I lost my sister.
When Pluto passed there? Oh, I'm so sorry.
Actually, the Pluto, like I told you yesterday, about this 10-degree before it hits. So, but Saturn was also coming into the moon.
Saturn.
Yeah.
So for actual death, the visible planets have to be included. Sorry? South, yes. The nodes of the visible planets and the psychological experiences. Yeah.
And I noticed that Saturn was at the exact same point as when my father passed away many years earlier.
Oh, wow.
So Saturn was also.
Wow.
Yeah, and one more confirmation, because using also Victor's technique, it all matched with, so it was confirmed by zodiacal releasing, progression, perfection, all together.
Yes. So all techniques, all roads lead to Rome.
So you need a confirmation of
Yes.
2 or more 3 techniques, just not to skip
Yes.
and just for learning.
Victor does the best zodiacal releasing, so he'll. Sorry, someone else was. Irene was standing.
Maybe it's the worst experience of Pluto ever you'll hear, I don't know. When Pluto was transiting my ascendant, and I have it in Sagittarius, and I have there a Mercury on the galactic ascendant. And when this was happening, and Pluto goes quite slowly, so there's many things which happen. And Sagittarius is part of 12th house and same 1st house. So it started already like in 12th house, and when this was going on, it was like friends poisoning you, which you think they're colleagues and your friends at job. And this happened even twice, that in the retrograde, even more heavier. And I had, luckily, a good sextile to my husband. So he was the one who saved me to return back. And through this whole thing going through, when it was passing even exactly on this ascendant going through, and then even after on the Mercury, I had 2 major surgeries in which the doctors had to bring me back. So if you see on the connections and you find that you have saving aspects like a sextile or a trine, you definitely don't have to be afraid that you will not come back again. But this experience show you even much more. The other side of existence, of living, it's really always a very big transformation. I did have other aspects also in my life. So I had the near-death experiences, I think, at least maybe 10 times. So you don't have to feel that it's your last one even. So it's only once in your life, but you might get a chance to see the other world or experience, even if you don't make soul travel or whatsoever you long for it. This experience can show you a part of the other world, of the other existence, or maybe to meet someone who cares for you, whatsoever it is.
Okay.
So don't give up and don't fear it, because you are guarded and you are cared for. And sometimes we don't have only one door to take a look and to find out that we are the soul and have a body and many other things. So take good care of yourself and don't fear anything.
Thank you.
So that might be the biggest gift for you. confront your biggest fears with Pluto. And then you see they're not so big. You see that you can overcome them, so you take your power back from everything you've ever feared.
About
So,
that, yes,
I just want to say that Pluto is one of the most psychological planets. So one of the reasons why I don't check its transits is because at the back of the mind, you're going to start thinking there's something wrong going to happen and you attract. And Pluto is all about attractiveness.
Yes.
So when you've got a Pluto, Venus, you become extremely sexual and so forth. And
Jealous,
such a
suspicious.
and suspicious as well and so forth. So therefore in Hellenistic astrology what we say is that the generational planets are like progressions and internal changes happening within you, and if you are able to manifest the positive side of the planet, then you can attract good things. If you manifest in the bad side of it, unfortunately, you are bringing events relating to Pluto. So with the Pluto transit, just try to stay as positive as possible. If it goes through your sun, definitely it's all about your life purpose. You need to figure out what you need to do. If it's your moon, then your feminine energies you need to enhance and so forth. So just think about Pluto psychologically, I believe.
So it's maybe best to practice the law of attraction and positive thinking.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Because Pluto was magic as well. So you
there is
need to realize that
some
you
powerful
are
free
the
will
magic.
there. Yeah.
You've got magic within you. And you need to find that magic.
Yeah.
Sign of you.
Thank you. That's great.
When I was a child, Pluto was transiting my ascendant, and I had a perfect family, rich family, traveling a lot. But when it passed conjunct my ascendant, I lost all my family unexpectedly. Yeah, car crash. Yeah. But what's interesting that this Pluto transit after that formed me as identity, because I'm interested in astrology and psychology since I'm a child. So after that it's So after that it helped me to find my mission.
Wow.
Yeah. So I work Pluto job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pluto, yeah, you're astrologer.
Yeah, and psychology I graduated. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Wow, some stories.
I just want to say something about the number 18. And you said, about Nicola, what you said, value, but in Hebrew, the value, geometry value of 18, it's life, actually.
Oh.
So it depends how you look at it. So you
life
have the
is
options of
something
life.
It's true.
It's
Thank
life,
you.
and it's good geometry.
Yes, thank you.
Good. So if you have something at 18, don't be.
I just want to say about the Pluto, in so many big cases, it's the Pluto transit, it can really transfer your fear of the feelings. It's a shred of the part of mostly fears, open these doors, but if you go through all that, this, like Victor said, optimism, huge optimism, nothing else, you can reach so enlightenment and your high vibrations and everything, they're not gonna stuck by the fear, and you can go on the low level. It can be very huge. Just go through that. What don't kill us make us stronger, and optimism.
Thank you. Well, Pluto rules the chakra, the Kundalini.
Everyone goes in exaltation.
Oh, in like
Yes.
Emotional, like yes, like euphoric. But because Pluto is one of the planets connected to Kundalini, so the raising of the consciousness is so much connected to that. And you know, sometimes after a big crisis, people start seeing things, they start acting on another level, they open, big psychic gifts. Okay, so food is here. A little break, if you're okay.
All I want to say that if someone uses tarot card, then Pluto is associated with judgment. Because you need to come out of the ground and then you need to rise up. Death as well, yeah, for sure. But it's a Saturn, more like Saturn card. If someone is very good at symbols, then think about the furnace burn. We need to burn everything down to be able to rise. And that's the kind of brutal part.
Wow, thank
That's
you.
true. Keep that image of that bird with you all the time when it's like hard. It's a advice. Yeah.
Okay, so one more small thing, for myself it's very dangerous just to meet people who have big knowledge and who emphasize the bad things, the devilish things. I think that we should avoid that. And one just thing that perhaps comes from my own experience, what saved me at that moment of the death, it was social project. Pluto is a huge energy. You should not keep it to yourself. You should find ways to make nothing holds you and guards you better than distant and hard achievable goals. So it's always, if you have knowledge and you have energy, you should be concerned with the bigger good, with the, with the society, with some social things. And not go into the darkness, into the trying to just, to know more, but at the expense of the light. And I don't know, even in this workshop, I just encountered that tendency. So I was very, concerned. I talked with Lada, but just from myself, be socially responsible. Try to do something for, for the bigger.
Be careful
good.
who you mix with. Yeah.
Thank you, that's a great advice. And before I release you, just to make an announcement, we're missing 70 left from the shuttle who came yesterday. It's 12 left per person. If someone didn't hear the announcement, if someone didn't, because they take 12 left. The complex was gonna ask us for 40 to 50 euros per person, but we found someone that just takes 12 left. So whoever forgot to pay for whoever was on the shuttle, if you remember, please. So we can give it to the guy that made us the favor. So thank you. See you in a bit.